it's fascinating to me how easily someone in one religion can find the fallacies and biases in another religion.
I think that what's fascinating,
you're razor sharp on your criticism of Islam here.
Yeah, but what I find fascinating, Jeff, is that you recognize that with other religions, but you don't do it with your own. Because
that may be the case. I'm just saying, and there's that confirmation bias coming up again.
This is Apologetics Live. To answer your questions, your host from Striving for Eternity Ministries, Andrew Rappaport.
We are live, Apologetics Live, here to answer your most challenging questions that you have about God and the Bible. Tonight's topic is going to be, well, maybe controversial for some. It shouldn't be, in my opinion, for Christians, but we're going to talk Christianity, Israel, and Jewish hatred. And yes, as it says in the title, a debate challenge for Joel Webbon. So we will discuss those issues tonight on Apologetics Live. I am your host, Andrew Rappaport of Striving for Eternity. I am the Executive Director of both Striving for Eternity and the Christian Podcast Community, of which this podcast is a member. And we're here to answer your questions. So you can feel free to going to apologeticslive.com at any point during the show. And you just scroll down to the duck icon, where we do this on most Thursdays, almost every Thursday, 8 to 10 Eastern time. You just go to apologeticslive.com, scroll down to the duck icon, click on that, and that is how you join us. This is a ministry of Striving for Eternity. And as I say almost every week, I can answer any question that you have about God and the Bible. And if you think I can't, well, that's the challenge. You come on in, give me your hardest question. Just remember one thing. I don't know is a perfectly good answer. And with that, I am going to invite in our pastors who were in last week as well. Pastor Jeff and Pastor Seth, welcome. For folks who were not, last week's was kind of really a prep for what we want to talk about this week. Last week, we talked about Israel and Christianity, the nation of Israel. How should Christians view it? But tonight, we want to talk more specifically about Jewish hatred. This is something that really the three of us discussed at, what is the Truth Fellowship. And so through that also, we have some distinguishing characteristics of what the Truth Fellowship is. Pastor Jeff, I'm going to let you explain the Truth Fellowship, how that came about as you introduce yourself. And then to introduce our topic tonight, I'm going to ask Pastor Seth, as he introduces himself, to talk about this topic of Jewish hatred, because it is what he is writing about in this book that we are all co-authoring together at the Truth Fellowship. So, Pastor Jeff, would you mind starting us off?
Yeah, the Truth Fellowship, and you can look at it at thetruthfellowship.org, is a group of guys that are speaking out in the truth war. So the tagline that you'll see for us is "Shepherds must speak." So many pastors are unwilling to speak out about cultural issues because it might be divisive. It might cause discord within their church. And so in order to grow the church and keep things kind of seeker sensitive, a lot of pastors will default to being quiet about those issues and not really speaking out on them. But our view is that truth rallies around, unity rallies around truth. So our priority is to put truth out as best we understand it. And we don't think we're infallible, but we want to handle the Word of God as best we can and be willing to say the hard things and trust God to bring unity. And that's really what's happened in the Truth Fellowship, but also in our local churches. We found amazing unity around the truth of God's Word. So thetruthfellowship.org, and it's just exciting to be a part of it. A lot of us are guys that just didn't really have a home any longer in the denomination. So for myself, the Evangelical Free Church kicked me to the curb because they said I was a Christian nationalist, and they thought that I had a bad attitude. So for that reason, they kicked me out of the denomination. But there were others. David Whitney also got the left foot of disfellowship, and some others from the Evangelical Free Church. But Seth here is not a free church, former free church pastor. I think his is a Baptist church, but a lot of us have found each other and we're standing together in the truth war. And we're excited to have Andrew Rappaport with us, as well as Russell Fuller, who was a professor at Southern Seminary, took a stand, signed the statement on social justice, and was summarily fired for his stand in the truth war. But he's with us now, so we thank God for him as well.
Yeah, and that the statement on social justice in the gospel is, and Jeff, I don't know if you know some of the background, but there were 75 of us that wrote a letter to John MacArthur asking him to put his weight behind it as we were getting started with that. And then out of that, I think there were 19 that got together to form the initial statement. And then the rest of us, it was sent to us to add any updates, approvals. And then when, like some of the update, I had some updates, got revised, came back to us, we gave final approval. That's what went up on the website. And so, but Jeff, you let folks know a little bit who you are, your church, where they could find you, and you could let them know. I mean, you know, the Evangelical Free had an open public discussion over your issues, right? And they said, let's have an open hearing so everyone can see what clearly is happening. Isn't that how that happened?
Well, I wish it was. They did give me 90 seconds to defend myself at the national conference. And just recognizing that was really ridiculous, I basically used that as a prophetic moment to call them out for going to the Dodgers game that night, where the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence had just done some disgusting dance mimicking Christ on the cross. So I just used that 90 seconds to call them out for supporting that. And not joining the Christian boycott against the Dodgers at that point. But anyway, so it was not a trial. It was not in any sense of like biblical justice.
Yeah. Defend your entire ministry in 90 seconds. Go. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly what it was.
So where are you pastoring? You're pastoring in a great state of, oh wait, no, maybe it's not, but.
Well, this is what you and I debate the most, you know, besides spiritual gifts, Andrew. It's whether or not New Jersey is a great state. I love New Jersey. New Jersey's incredible. Now, I know we have horrible politics and horrible government. It is. It's beautiful. It's got so many opportunities. You got the shore, you got the mountains, you got the cities, you got everything within a short distance. So people move to New Jersey and be a part of Cornerstone Church.
Yeah, down there in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. I have had the privilege of preaching there and speaking there, so I do enjoy going down there. Pastor Seth, introduce yourself a little bit, and then bring us into why you felt the issue of Jewish hatred was an important enough topic to put it in our list of 13 distinctives, and then include it in the book and that you wanted to write on. But and also, you can mention your article that you have out on TrueScript.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, my name is Pastor Seth. I was here 1 week ago, so it's good to be back with you guys. And by the way, I've been to New Jersey twice. They were both in 2025, and it is a beautiful state. So it was good to be to go to the Garden State twice last year. But yeah, so I pastor in Wisconsin, and in fact, I pastor about an hour northeast of where the world's attention is right now, which is Minneapolis. We had Jeff speak out at our church at a conference almost 2 years ago, and so Jeff actually flew into Minneapolis, and that's where we picked him up. Yeah, so but I pastor across the border here in Wisconsin, so I'm very grateful that I'm on this side of the border and not on the other side of the border right now. But yeah, I pastor in just north of St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin, right on the St. Croix River, and it's a beautiful place to be. And I've been here for 9 years, and so I got connected with Jeff really because he wrote the book Woke Free Church, and I saw him do an interview with John Harris on YouTube, and I just said, I really want to connect with this guy because I really appreciate the stand that he's taking. And, my family has a long history in the Free Church. My great-grandfather was in the Free Church. My grandparents were. My parents were. I grew up in the Free Church. I was born dedicated, baptized, and even was an associate pastor in the Free Church. So I was very interested as Jeff was, speaking out on these issues. So I connected with Jeff, and kind of became one of the guys who linked arms with him during that fight. And so, as I mentioned 1 week ago, that's kind of how the Truth Fellowship was started. And then we added other guys along the way, like you, Andrew, and like Russell Fuller and some other guys who are not have no connection with the Free Church. Yeah. So yeah, the Truth Fellowship, we have these 13 distinctives. And it says on the website, it's the statement on biblical shepherds. And so what we're saying is that a faithful biblical shepherd in 2026 will be holding to these positions. We'll be standing on these positions. And one of the really discouraging things over the last year or two is a lot of the people, quite a few of the people who we used to link arms with, speaking out against the social justice movement, all of a sudden just started all this anti-Israel rhetoric, anti-Jewish rhetoric. And I had a few circumstances in my life. One time I was in Walmart, and this lady and we were talking, and she's a Christian, and I thought we were on the same page. And she was talking about all these horrible things happening in the world. We were talking about the opening to the Paris Olympics, and remember that blasphemy that took place in that opening ceremony at the Paris Olympics. And so this lady and I were talking about that, and then she completely caught me off guard when she said, "Isn't it horrible what Israel is doing?" And so I stopped her. I'm like, "Okay, let's talk about this." And in the front of Walmart, as my wife and children kept shopping, I kind of got into a little bit of a debate in the front of Walmart where I explained to her, I said, I know you're anti-woke, and you need to understand the woke dynamics in the Middle East. They view Israel as the oppressor and the Palestinians as the oppressed. And so I was explaining that to her, and she didn't get it. And then I had conversations with other people, these were anti-woke people, but they're saying, "Oh, isn't what Israel is doing horrible?" And then it went further than that. Then it went to, Jewish people are the problem, and it started, I noticed on YouTube, Tucker Carlson was someone I used to really appreciate. During COVID, he took a really strong stance during COVID. He was against the Black Lives Matter stuff. He just, he hit the nail on the head so many times when he was on Fox News hosting the show Tucker Carlson Tonight. I'd watch his monologue every single night. And then I started to listen to what he was saying about Israel and the Jewish people. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? I thought it was kind of weird, how kind he was to Putin. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. And then I started to notice how kind he was to these Islamic leaders. Then he was kind to the Venezuelan leader, Maduro. And I started to notice there's a pattern here taking place with Tucker Carlson. But he was really hard on Israel, extra hard on Israel. So, and so he was one voice, but I would hear it from Joel Webbon, who we talked about a little bit about 1 week ago, where he was pushing this rhetoric, and not just him, but some other guys. And of course, Nick Fuentes is a very, very he's the extreme, but of course, Nick Fuentes and Joel Webbon are now linking arms, right? So this issue has really taken off within the evangelical movement, and honestly, it's a lot of these guys. Most of these guys are reformed guys. They're anti-social justice guys. They're reformed guys, and they are participating in this rhetoric. So at the Truth Fellowship, we said we got to say something about this, and so I want to read our statement here. This is our distinctive number 12 on the Truth Fellowship website. The verse we have here is James 2:1. My brothers, show no partiality as you hold the faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory. And here's the statement. We are concerned about a growing ideology that unjustly targets Jewish people as uniquely evil based on their biology and falsely attributes to them social and global evils. All right. So we understand that Jewish people, just like anybody else in the world, have done some very sinful things. Like George Soros, for example, is is Jewish. One of the vaccines was developed by Jewish people, but they've been blamed for basically a cabal of, they run the world. And if you trace everything back to its smallest point, what you're going to find is that you're going to find Jewish people behind all of these evil actions that are taking place. So basically, behind every conspiracy is a Jewish person. So you started to see this develop, and I could go through things here. When I write in my chapter, I focused a lot on Tucker Carlson because he's the one I'm concerned about. And here's why I'm so concerned about him. I'm more concerned about him than Nick Fuentes. I'm more concerned about Tucker Carlson because he has the guise of credibility. Just like I'm more concerned about Tim Keller than I am about Joel Osteen. Tim Keller would share a stage with some credible people, which gives him credibility, which made his teaching on social justice very dangerous. I think there's that same dynamic going on here. So Andrew, do you want me to share a little bit about some of the things he said?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. So here's what over the last year or two, this is what he's had on his program. He's pushed this ideology. Again, this ideology, it sees everything through this lens. Okay, so it's similar to critical race theory, right? Critical race theory saw everything through the lens of this oppressor-oppressed dynamic, where, for example, what happened in Minneapolis in 2020 when Derek Chauvin and the George Floyd incident happened, everyone just immediately thought white cop killing black man, right? That's the narrative, without looking at any of the facts to say, okay, what exactly happened here? So ideology viewed with what just happened. Okay, so there's a similar dynamic going on here with this Jewish hatred ideology, where they see everything through that lens. Okay, so Tucker Carlson has pushed this ideology in several different ways. One of them is by having highly questionable people on his program, and instead of grilling them for their outlandish views, he has performed the interviews as if he agrees. Okay, he's become known for these kind of softball interviews where you can tell he's actually agreeing with the people he's interviewing. He's not pushing back. Of course, on TDHP, Jeff, you and I, we've interviewed people we agree with, and we don't give some serious pushback. But if we interview someone we disagree with, we're going to give some serious pushback, right? We're going to ask them some hard questions. And for
folks who don't know, you gave the initials for the podcast, but what is the podcast?
Oh, tearing down the high places. Yes. Yeah. Tearing down the high places. Yeah. You can find it on YouTube and Rumble. And where else can you find it, Jeff? You can find it.
Yeah. I think the best place is to go to Cornerstone Church, Mount Laurel on YouTube. And it's just in the video section. The particular episodes are tearing down high places.
Okay. Yeah. So Tucker Carlson here, he has Nick Fuentes on. Of course, Fuentes is pro-Hitler, pro-Nazi, pro-Stalin, white nationalist, and he's unashamedly these things. Okay, so he has Fuentes on his program without any real pushback whatsoever. Tucker Carlson also interviewed Daryl Cooper. Daryl Cooper, I call him a pseudo-historian who describes a different story about the Holocaust, minimizing Hitler's evil and pointing the finger at Churchill, calling Churchill the chief villain of World War II. Okay,
what's his view of the Holocaust?
What was that?
What's his view of the Holocaust?
Basically, he's like, it wasn't nearly as bad as as they say it is. Just greatly minimizing it, and Hitler had his hands full, and so he just needed to put some people who were opposing him in just these camps over here, and.
Does he take the view where, they were, after the fact, they were just trying to embellish the numbers and it really wasn't that big? Okay.
Yeah. So people are, that's a common trend you're seeing right now. They're either greatly minimizing the Holocaust or they're denying it altogether. One of the two. And so Daryl Cooper is one of those guys. And to show his approval of Cooper, Carlson stated that he is the greatest and most honest historian in America.
Okay.
Exact quote from Tucker Carlson. So he's also interviewed David Collum, who believes that the United States should have allied with Hitler in World War II rather than the Soviet Union. This belief comes from the historically inaccurate view that the Holocaust was exaggerated, like I said, and therefore Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were not as evil as everyone said they were. But history, of course, tells the story from the survivors and those who discovered the horror that it is impossible to put into words the evil that took place in those concentration camps. In fact, that was Eisenhower visited the concentration camps after the war was over. And that's exactly what he said. He's like, there are not words in the English language to describe how horrible these camps were. And the people that were most targeted were the Jewish people in those concentration camps. Yeah. So
I don't know if you realize, but that was one of the reasons that the Germans were marched through after the fact, the locals, so that they saw what they wanted. They were just ignoring, so that they wouldn't allow it to happen again, so that they would see the wickedness that was right under their nose that they let happen, to say, don't ever let it happen again. And I remember when Mark Spence, he was at Living Waters working on the film 180, he had told me one day, we were just on the phone talking, and he had a rough day at work because he was editing all the video footage that they were putting into 180. And he just said, he's like, I'm watching these people, you see them going into the concentration camps after the war's over, and they are like smiling and happy, and you see their faces when they're walking out, and you're seeing the horror that they now realize they saw. And he was like, it's just, what did they think was going on? They could smell the burning of human flesh, and they just justified it to themselves. Like, we couldn't really be doing that. Yeah, they can.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So anyway, let's continue with Tucker Carlson here. So Carlson has unashamedly promoted these people on his program. Now he has not come out himself and said that the Holocaust didn't happen, but again, he's had these people on his program. His brother, in fact, actually went on social media and said it didn't happen, which I find very interesting. So his brother explicitly said it. But
Tucker Carlson's brother that said it?
Tucker Carlson's brother, yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, I bet they've been talking behind the scenes, yeah. But anyway, sure. So furthermore, he has platformed several pro-Hamas guests claiming that Israel has run American foreign policy in the Middle East for decades, while saying the Israeli military has participated in ethnic cleansing in the Gaza region. Yeah. So in one of his newsletters, Carlson said this: unnamed Washington sources expressed concern over Israel's ability to fend off Iran's retaliation, which would inevitably lead to Benjamin Netanyahu ordering the American military to step in and fight on his country's behalf. Okay, so think about that statement. This statement tells us that the Jews are truly the ones in control. So Trump doesn't really run the United States military. Netanyahu runs the United States military. And it goes back to those Bush years, right? When they went into Iraq and Afghanistan. It's, really the United States has been fighting Israel's wars. That's the narrative that they're spreading.
Okay. I gotta just interrupt and ask one logical question.
Mm-hmm.
If we are doing nothing but doing the bidding of Israel, especially Netanyahu, why was it that Bill Clinton's advisor, James Carmel, was the one who was advising the guy who ended up, Sharon, who ended up beating Netanyahu with fake charges, just the same way they did here in America, with just creating a fake case. And then every time Israel went to war, the United States would go, okay, you almost wiped out your enemy. Stop now. Right? Why was it, if we're just bowing down to Israel, why was it always the United States that stopped them from finishing, and they always listened to us? I'm just curious. I don't know. I shouldn't ask logical questions, should I?
Yeah, there isn't any logic to any of this. So yeah, that's yeah. But anyway, okay. So he, he says things like this. Now, when he had Nick Fuentes on his program, Fuentes talked about organized Jewry, right? Like this authority of these Jews that are running the world, and actually Joe Webbon had Nick Fuentes on where they talked about that as well. Okay, so this does, we'll get to Joe Webbon here in a little bit, but now, continuing to show Carlson's agenda against Israel and the Jewish people, he has given soft interviews to the greatest opposers of Israel in the Middle East. In particular, he has promoted leaders in the Iranian and Qatar governments, and that's where Tucker has earned the nickname Tucker Qatarlson. Now, even though they are strongly for the advance of Islam in the West, okay, think about that. What Qatar is pouring millions and millions of dollars into America to try to spread the lies that Israel is this evil nation, that Islam really is being oppressed, and Qatar wants to advance Islam into the West. So which they've already succeeded very well in Europe, and they're already doing very well here in the United States. Actually in Minneapolis. Speaking of Minneapolis,
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of Somalians live in Minneapolis, and I used to do evangelism down in Minneapolis to these Somali Muslims, and one thing about it is you go down there to South Minneapolis, and it feels like you're in East Africa. They do not assimilate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing people don't understand is like they do not assimilate to the cultures that they move into. The eventual goal, especially of those who really know what's going on, is to have Sharia law. They want to gain enough power to get to that place. Okay, so think about Tucker Carlson here, platforming these guys, basically presenting them as the victims to Israel's tyranny. So now, interestingly, his most contentious interview is with pro-Israel Senator Ted Cruz.
Yeah. Yeah. So before you get that, let me bring Jeff, because I know Jeff has to drop at the top of the hour. So with what he said so far, Jeff, what do you have to add to this, or anything else you want to bring in? I know you got to drop at the top of the hour. So
I think that what Seth said early on about the victim mentality and the woke mindset, where everything gets processed through this lens, really explains a lot. Because when I'm hearing Tucker Carlson recently, everything he does now and says seems to be going through the lens of what will help his narrative against Israel. So what does Nigeria have to do with Israel? Absolutely nothing. So why is Tucker Carlson coming on to say, well, the killing of Christians in Nigeria is probably not as bad as they're making it out to be. It's overblown. Same thing he does with Minneapolis. All this stuff, he's jumping in, trying to get the spotlight off of Muslims, off of, the fraud that's happening with the Somali community. He even did the same thing with Mamdani. If there's not a subversive person, worse than him, like if there is one, I don't know who it is. I mean, Zoran Mamdani is the exact opposite of everything America stands for and everything that we need. And yet Tucker looks for ways to just make him not that bad. And it just really all comes down to this fact that this victim mentality, that the Jews are somehow victimizing him in America, that becomes the overarching narrative that controls everything. It really is a mind virus. It's horrible.
Yeah. Oh,
So here's what Mamdani, or what Carlson said about Mamdani. Okay. So now here's what's interesting. Leading up to the New York City election, all the conservative heads, the who's who in the conservative political world, guess what they're talking about? The New York City race. That had all the attention, right? We can't let Mamdani win. Guess how many times Tucker Carlson mentioned Mamdani 1 month before the election happened?
You mean at all, or just in a negative way?
Well, I'll explain. So guess how many times he mentioned him?
I don't know. Maybe my guess, maybe a dozen at
Jeff
most.
got it. Jeff got it.
Zero and one
Once.
time.
Once.
Was it?
And he mentioned him in a positive way.
0 times in a negative was going to be. So at least I would have been right there.
Yeah, so he mentioned it in a positive way. Basically, he said, during the mayoral debate, they were asked, what country do you want to go to? And a couple of the other guys said Israel. And Mondani said, I don't want to go to any country. I just want to be in New York City. I love New York City. And so, of course, Tucker Carlson loved that comment. And yeah, so that was the only think about that. He's supposed to be a conservative political commentator, and he didn't even talk about this New York City election. Like his focus is not on beating the left.
I mean, look, his focus is on making his payments, right? Getting his money. Yeah. Now it's about building his platform. Now that he's not beholden to anyone, I don't know about you guys. I had Charlie Kirk came to me in a dream, and he told me that Candace Owen and Charlie and Tucker Carlson are on the payroll of Alex Soros. And it's got to be true because Charlie came to me in a dream. Hey, if it's good enough for Candace, it's good enough for me. I mean, but no, I mean, this. I don't know if you've heard, but this is the very reason that Dan Bongino said he left the FBI to come back in to be able to speak in the public forum, because he's realizing that the conservative right is being lost and muddled down and watered down by the Candace Owens and the grifters like Tucker Carlson, where they had some conservative, following backbone, but once they went out on their own, they've kind of given that up and gone Lulu. I mean, they're basically no different than the wokeism that the three of us fought. It's just they want a conservative wokeism, where they're going to pick and choose who the victims and the victimizers are in a different way. But it's the same woke nonsense.
Yeah. Listen to what Tucker Carlson said about Mondani here. Okay, so this isn't one of his newsletters. He said, "Is the incoming mayor a fan of Israel? Does he want America to fight its wars? Not particularly, but a Jew hater? That's a different conversation. We've never seen anything to suggest he falls into that ugly camp because he doesn't." Okay, so think about this. There were rabbis in New York City who met with Mondani before the election because they just wanted to know his views on Israel and Palestine. And this rabbi goes public and he says, Mondani's views on Israel are the most radical possible. He not only thinks that Israel is doing ethnic cleansing and they're oppressing the Palestinians, he also believes that they should not have any state anywhere. So to have a Jewish state should not even be on the table. Not in their homeland, not in Canada, not anywhere. So anyway, so Tucker Carlson says he's not a Jew hater. Yeah. Now Tucker Carlson he stated that Hamas is not a terrorist group, but a political organization.
Okay. Does he admit that Islam is also a political organization and one that is incapable of operating in a capitalistic country? Actually, here, Jesse says this in the comments. He said, Islam is unable, in all caps, unable to assimilate into American society because it's a political system. And look, I believe very strongly on freedom of religion in America. Okay, I support that. But Islam is not a religious system. It's a political one. And Tucker Carlson is a political analyst, right? Conservative one who should stand up for capitalism. And yet he's standing up for Islam. And he clearly, I mean, I'd love to sit down with Tucker Carlson for a couple of hours and explain to him what the Quran actually teaches about Islam and politics. because there is no room in Islam for any other view of government or religion other than Islam. It is their religion is a world dominance, and nobody complains about Islam being, an Islam nationalist, but that is what Islam is. There's no separation of church and state, or mosque and state. It is one and the same, and it is total domination. And yet they want to call out Christians. Oh, I was going to play a clip at the beginning just to see what you guys would think about it. But if you've seen the clip of the one woman who's basically saying that white Christian evangelicals are a cancer on America. And I put this out on X and I said, like, Christians, this is what we're up against. I mean, these folks, they view us as a cancer. They don't see terrorists as the enemy. They don't see criminals as an enemy. They see Christians as an enemy. And they're going to partner with the Muslims who, if you understand Islam will work with you to destroy you. That's actually part that you see in the hadiths of the instruction. Work with the countries, but you're working with them only to destroy them. So it's okay to pretend like you're agreeing with them, lying all the time to defend the faith.
Yeah. And that's of course the Red-Green Alliance. That's the goal of it. They will. The green, of course, is Islam. The red is communism, and they will work with the communists, but they will not bow to the communists for sure. They want absolute authority. Yeah. So Tucker Carlson, he also minimized Sharia law. Again, you're noticing a pattern here.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to love these far right authoritarian leaders, right? Maduro, Putin, Iran. He has got a really soft spot in his heart for these guys.
So let me ask you, because when he was with Fox News, clearly he was not that way. He would speak out against these type of leaders. So let me ask you, out of curiosity, your assessment. Do you think that Tucker always was this way, but kind of restrained because he was in a conservative circles with Fox News, and that's how he was? The way to stand out was to sound conservative, but he really never was? Or do you think that, I joked about it, or do you think there's someone that's paying his bills like the Southern Baptists have, where they're getting money from a Soros-funded organization and they're being, hey, we want this money to come in, okay, we'll placate the woke nonsense. Do you think that could be, or do you have a different opinion? And then, Jeff, I'll be curious of your opinion of that.
Yeah, a wealthy Muslim man actually helped launch Tucker Carlson Network once he left Fox News.
Oh, okay.
And that's public knowledge. And it's pretty incredible that more people don't know about that. He's probably receiving more money than that from Islam. So I guess it's hard to say, like, what was he just playing us all these years? Because we didn't know this anti-Israel stuff did not come out when he was on Fox News. I never noticed it anyway. But from a biblical standpoint, I've thought about this, and because I've seen this before, I mentioned Tim Keller earlier, and I think you can talk about some other guys who speak a lot of good things. They speak a lot of truth, and it makes them extra dangerous when they go down a dark path. Because they bring a lot of people with them. Even credible people get fooled by these guys.
Look at Candace Owens. I mean, I have to admit, like, it boggles my mind how many people follow Candace, and her proof that Charlie Kirk's wife was behind this, and the people at Turning Point had Charlie killed, was that Charlie Kirk came to her in a dream and told her this. And like, none of her followers go, that's crazy. Like, gee, that's not really evidence. Right. And now she's saying he was a time traveler, and that's how he knew he was going to die young. It's what? Like, at some point, people should be saying this is nonsense, but yet, I don't know. I think what it is, Seth, is that people followed them because they were saying conservative things. And I think what they feel is that if they were to say, well, no, they're nuts, then that's undermining everything else they believe and all their views of conservatism. I don't know. It's just my theory.
So you think people are afraid to condemn them because of that?
I think people are afraid to say that these guys are just crazy because they've so connected their conservatism to these people. So if they're wrong, their conservatism must be wrong. I don't know how else to explain how really intelligent people that can see the hypocrisy within the media when it comes to the left, see the same exact techniques on the right and go, oh yeah, this makes sense. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. As shepherds, we need to have discernment, and we need to spot wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
They say a lot of true things, but then they poison it, and then you realize, oh wait, this person's actually causing a lot of damage, right? And I would put Tucker Carlson in that category. Again, I think he's more dangerous than Candace Owens because, if you don't know that Candace Owens is crazy by now, you got issues. I mean, it should be pretty obvious at this point. But Tucker has a way of, almost, he's this old country, American boy that loves America, and he's the only one who really loves it. All these other people don't really love it. He kind of gives that off, and it's really dangerous. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. I don't think that the lion's share of the problem is financial. I don't think that Candace or Tucker are largely motivated by money. I do think it plays in, like everybody, there's some influence of, there's a financial gain here. And I think he does take Muslim money. But I think it's much deeper than that. I think it's very spiritual, doctrines of demons. I do believe that there are winds and waves of doctrine that come over the land. Think back to like 2016 when QAnon just had so many intelligent people believing the whole thing hook, line, and sinker about, so many people that they would name, LeBron James and Tom Hanks and whoever else they can come up with. They're all drinking the blood of children to get an adrenaline rush and to increase the sexual pleasure and all. Like, they believed all of this without questioning. And the problem wasn't that they weren't intelligent. It was a demonic doctrine that swept through, which actually had its roots back in the Jewish blood libel. So it connects with what we're doing here, because of course the head of all these world cabals are people like the Rothschilds and all of that. But rather than proving it with evidence as the Bible would prescribe, it was done by conspiracy theory. And, I know a lot of the conspiracies turn out to be true, but we still have a biblical demand that we pursue justice by evidence. The whole process, due process, that is biblical. Proverbs 18:17. So what ends up happening, I think, is the end of Hebrews 5 says to train the powers of your discernment by constant practice. And there are a lot of Christian people or non-Christian people who haven't been in the Word, and they have been drifting away from God in their own hearts. They've been backsliding, and they're not spiritual right now. Their discernment, and so they're very liable to these things. And Tucker Carlson is that way. I think he's probably genuinely had some encounter with God. I don't probably think he's saved, but he read the Bible for the first time in his life a couple years ago. He's in the spiritual war. He talks about this encounter he had with demons, where his back got scratched in the middle of the night, and he got tore up by a demon. So he's been in some kind of spiritual war. But when I listened to him at Turning Point USA, I heard his speech at the AmFest in December. And even before that, I heard him kind of fill in on Charlie Kirk's road show. I don't hear the sound of a fake. I think he is a genuine person who believes the things he's saying, and he thinks he's crusading for truth and justice and righteousness. The problem is he's so immature as a Christian, or he's not a believer, that he's actually been deceived by doctrines of demons, and he's not biblical enough to figure out where the lies are coming in. So he's like a crusader who's going for some goal that he has in mind. And I think it's truly a demonic wave that's sweeping over the country. So to answer that question that you first said, Andrew, I don't think back in the day when he was on Fox News, this was on his mind at all. I think he was doing his thing. I think it's been recent years when this wave of hatred of Jews has really reached fever pitch, that it also got into him, and he did not have the structural integrity as a Christian to resist it. And so we're seeing what we're seeing. I think it's a demonic doctrine that's overtaken him in recent years.
That's certainly an interesting view. Now, I know you have to go at top of the hour. So before you have to take off, I do want to make sure we get time for a public challenge. Both Pastor Jeff and Pastor Seth feel strongly enough about this topic. And what we're going to talk about, Pastor Seth is going to talk about the next hour, is specifically more so on Joel Webbon. But you guys have both agreed to be willing to debate Joel Webbon and another person that he would want in a 2-on-2 debate on the issue of Israel, or at least the Christian response to Israel. Is that true? Are you both willing to do such a debate?
Yes, I would do it.
Yeah, I'm 100% in on that. And we could even look at his book that he recently put out. So he's sort of thrown out his views in the hyphenated heresy. Joel Webbon has written a book on this. Plus, he's put so many things out publicly on his podcast. We could narrow that topic and define it, but it is just a very important issue right now. And yeah, I would be willing to debate that.
So the thing that I'm asking for this audience here is, if you could, those who either know Joel and his gang, or if you're willing to take this episode and tag them and with the debate challenge, we're looking to, and I'm going to be doing that as well. On X, where I name this to be that it's going to a debate challenge to Joel Webbon. So that is the challenge. And now I'm going to tell you right now, here's the thing. I said this last week. I'll say it this week. Joel Webbon doesn't want this debate because he prefers a monologue. He prefers to be in an area where he can monologue. And if he's going to be in a debate where it's not a monologue, where he can't clearly win, he wants it to be something where he can try to influence some big crowd. You're going to hear Joel Webbon, if he ever refers to this challenge, he's going to say, oh, well, they don't have a big enough platform, these two unknown guys, right? That'll be the way he'll argue it. When he says that, one thing for sure, he's not arguing for truth. He's only arguing for his platform building. Okay? That's the proof of it, that he's a platform builder. If he's a man for truth, he'd be willing to debate these topics that he feels so strongly about openly. We have a program right here. We have done many formal debates. I have moderated many debates, and anyone can look at the debates I've moderated, and you don't see me being biased toward any side. I manage the clock. That's what a moderator does. I read the questions. That's what a good moderator does. But we have a platform that we can have them come and have this discussion. It is an important discussion, I believe, not just because I'm from a Jewish background. That's why I'm not challenging the debate, because I don't think he'd ever debate me because I'm Jewish. And he's going to be, oh, see, you're biased. Okay, so take me out of that. But the reality is, I do think it's important for us to have a right view of Israel, and to not be arguing and dividing as Christians over the issue of the state of Israel, and arguing that people who are going to be, who are going to have differing views of Israel, that it's either a salvific issue, or to argue that there's some, to be sitting here and denying that Israel is a state today. Now, I am laughing, and Jeff and Seth, you may see why, but we have our friend back who is the Prophet Muhammad in Bible Isaiah 42. Now, for the record, anyone could go back see last week how this person was, and I still haven't blocked them, because I'm hoping that this character would actually come in and to Apologetics Live, and anyone can. Even if you disagree with the issues that Jeff is saying about Israel, you can come on in, apologeticslive.com. You can join the discussion, and even if you disagree and want to have a debate on things, hey, you prepared, I didn't. Let's debate it. But this Prophet Muhammad dude, that I would love to see him come in and we could talk about how the author of the Quran doesn't know everything. So it can't be God because he doesn't know what the Trinity is. He doesn't even know how human biology works, by the way. You know, Prophet Muhammad out there, if you think the Quran is so accurate, just tell me where semen is. You know, that male part of the seed. Because the Quran says it's in the small of the back, and that's not good biology. So we could talk about things like that if...
Yeah, and Andrew, speaking of the small of the back, we should ask Prophet Muhammad in the Bible, Isaiah, what was up with the night of Al-Zut? David Wood has put out some videos about Muhammad and the night of Al-Zut. If you guys haven't looked that up yet, Muhammad's a pretty weird dude. Pretty weird dude.
I haven't seen that one, but I have seen the Prophet Muhammad. You know, he says, okay, you're limited to the number of wives, being the number of wives he had at the time. You know, because his youngest wife I kind of picture her as a pretty feisty girl, and he just suddenly decides he wants to have his adopted son's wife, and so he can have an extra wife that others can't. And she's known for having said, "Oh, you're a prophet of God. You always get, God always gives you what you want." And I don't think she was saying that in the way of, "Oh, yes, you're a prophet." It's just, I think it's more sarcastic, like, "Oh, sure, because you're a prophet. It just so happens God always seems to agree with what you want." You know.
And then Surah 66 comes just to justify him taking his adopted son's wife to be one of his many wives. Which also, didn't he have other wives that were sisters? Is that the case? I'm not sure about that one.
I'm not sure about that. Joseph did that. Joseph Smith.
No. I think it was cousins. I think he was one of the first that had a first cousin marriage, which has gone on and on for the centuries now, just like Andrew Wilson exposed with what that's done to IQs.
Okay, you and I have to talk about that. I'm not up on that one. Yeah. Because
I got to tell you about this real quick. So Andrew Wilson debated some Daniel Hakikachu, this big Muslim Harvard-educated scholar, and all that Andrew Wilson did to prove his point was to harp on the point about first cousin marriage, and that some countries, the Muslim countries, will have like more than 50% of the people are marrying their first cousin, and it's plummeting the IQ of the entire nation. So it's keeping the country just in poverty. They can't compete with the Western nations because they've ruined their IQ by first cousin marriage.
Well, I guess based on that, then Joe Webbon wouldn't debate them because their IQ is not high enough, right?
Right. Well, there was a guy who had a 130 IQ who said he won the debate with Ruslan.
Okay, so here'd be a thing. You know, I know Joe Webbon's made the comment about the IQs. People under 130 can't be smart enough to understand what he says. So, hey, Joel, I mean, if you did want to debate me, I got 168 IQ. I've passed the test from Mensa. I'll put my numbers up of IQ and T cells up against yours any day because I think I got more testosterone than you ever had. So if you want to go either way,
bring in the numbers. I love it, dude. Did you see that the guy with the highest IQ in the world is now outspoken as a Christian and trying to plant churches? Chinese guy, isn't that awesome?
Yeah. Actually, there's I think the highest IQ guy in America, highest IQ male in America is a Christian. He's I forget how old now. Now he's got to be in his later 20s, but I think he graduated with a PhD by 16 or 17. It was crazy. So. Yeah.
So that now you said that Joe Webbon would not debate a nobody, and I'm going to say that Jeff Cleaver is not a nobody. Okay,
Joe Webbon will claim that because he doesn't. We are, but that's the whole thing. He'll make that claim to get out of it.
Okay.
I've heard this before.
Hey,
I heard someone say that James White was a nobody and he wouldn't debate him because James White was a nobody. I'm like, James is pretty well known and has 200 formal debates. I think he's pretty well known on debate.
Well, I just want to say, Jeff wrote Woke Free Church. Okay, so, Joe Webbon was supposed to be this big anti-woke guy a few years ago, and, he was in that crowd. And so, Jeff's book, Woke Free Church, is it's one of the several really good books that were written in that time. You think about Vodi Baucham's book,
Yeah, but Jeff wrote that one, Fan the Flames, and that just, I don't know.
No.
If you want a better position, it could have been a great book.
Yeah. So Vodi Baucham's book was Fault Lines. And then you had John Harris's book. He wrote actually a couple books on the social justice.
Dealt more with what was going on in the Southern Baptists. And I'm joking about with Jeff on Fanning the Flames, but Jeff's book on Fanning the Flames was actually really good because he kind of showed both sides of the issues on the charismatic gifts. Okay. And I think, Jeff, I know I hope I'm not embarrassing, but I think you tried to do a pretty decent job of saying, hey, let's be balanced here and give both positions to show where the issues are and kind of like, I don't know. I walked away from the book saying it seemed like you're trying to say, hey, let's not be fighting so much over these issues, but find out where we can find some agreement. Would that be fair?
I think that's fair. And yeah, thank you for saying that. I'm not a cessationist, but I think in the book, I'm harder on the sensationalists than I am on the cessationists.
Well, you'll be a cessationist in heaven, so don't worry about it. I just have to joke with him. But so, Jeff, I know you got to go because you got a meeting. But anything else you want to talk about as far as this, just the whole issue, whether it's the Truth Fellowship, we got a conference coming up in May in Tampa, Florida. Whether you want to talk about, you can give more details about that. You could talk about, the book that we're trying to put out, the Truth Fellowship, the debate challenge, anything you want to promote.
Awesome. Thank you. Just real quick. Yeah. thetruthfellowship.org. And then scroll down on that page and find the button attend. And you can find all the information about the conference. It's at my brother's church in Tampa, Florida. So we're going to all be there. All of the Truth Fellowship people will be speaking. We have John Harris speaking. We have Russell Fuller speaking. And it's going to be an awesome time of fellowship. It's a small conference, relatively speaking. So we'll get to spend time together, have meals together, hang out. So I actually have a bunch of people from Cornerstone Church in New Jersey coming down. We're going to get a really big Airbnb and have a bunch of rooms and have our church down there with like a little retreat together. So yeah, come on out. It's May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. The next thing is this debate challenge. I want to say something to Jordan Hall, who is the guy who, with Joel Webbon, wrote the book, The Hyphenated Heresy. Jordan, I consider you a friend. Jordan actually promoted some of my books when I put them out over the years, when he used to be with Pulpit and Pen back in the day. And I consider him a friend. I do think he's gone in a bad direction, a very bad direction, in the angle with the anti-Jew stuff with Joel Webbon. But I think Jordan would be the first to say that he and I are friendly towards one another. There's no animus. We can come at it and just be impartial and let the Bible do the speaking and let the truth come out in that conversation. So I would appeal to him at that level of a friend. And then as far as, what was the third thing that I was supposed to promote, Andrew?
Well, whatever you might want, your church, the Truth Fellowship, the conference.
Yeah. Oh, and the book. It was the book. Yeah, we are writing a book. So the 12 guys that are kind of on the leadership council, I didn't really mean it to be 12. We're not trying to be like 12 apostles or something, but that's kind of what it's come to right now. We are each writing a chapter for a book that's going to come out and be available in May at the Truth Conference. And we'll probably call the book The Truth Fellowship, or maybe something else. We'll work on that between now and then. But the chapters have been written. We're editing them, and that book will be available. So for those of you who really want to speak into the culture and take a stand on not just the issue regarding Israel, but all of the conservative issues that we really need to be speaking up about, abolishing abortion, standing up against the LGBTQ indoctrination in the schools. We need pastors that are going to get involved in that. So, if you're anywhere near Cornerstone Church in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, maybe you're a South Jersey person or just across the bridge in Pennsylvania, we would love for you to come be a part of our church. We do things like go to the public libraries and stand up against the pornography that they're pushing in there. We've gone to like political meetings, town hall meetings. Andy Kim of the 3rd District of New Jersey, and we brought like 50, it's probably more like 80 people from Cornerstone and just confounded him in that meeting because he was trying to talk about abortion there. So we brought homeschool families that had 13 kids or 8, and the moms would just speak out about the value of each one of these individual lives. My son actually spoke up to Andy Kim about how abortion is murdering kids, and how do you know that one of those little babies wouldn't have grown up to be the next George Washington? And Andy Kim was literally just silent when I said that. But yeah, so we would just encourage people to come be a part of Cornerstone Church if you're anywhere near. So, and Andrew, thank you so much for having me on again. I'm sorry I do have to run.
We thank you for coming on. So, I will say for folks, if you don't watch this live, I know the majority of people listen onto the podcast, but if you don't watch it live, you miss the chat. And I can't always put up everything in the chat, but we got I convinced another Muslim. See you, Jeff. Thanks for coming on. And so look, I'm not one. My English is bad, okay? My first language was BASIC. I moved on to Pascal, C, C++, Java, JavaScript, and many other computer languages. English wasn't one of them, but I can't even understand what this guy's saying. I think he's probably a Muslim or looking at the debates going on back and forth, but he's like, oh, anyways, can you prove following a religion and having a high IQ when the country says religion is true, especially if religion's book is full of contradictions, striving for eternity? I got to tell you, son, 67 FZ, I don't even know what you're saying. I'm sorry. I don't get it. But if you're asking how we can prove there's one religion is true over another, that I could do objectively. Okay. So Seth, let me just take a quick second to do this for this fella or maybe it's a girl, is the fact that there is an objective way to know that there's first off, there's only 2 religions in the entire world. There's man-made religion and divine religion, and that's it. There's nothing else. It's either made by God or made by man. And one thing we know about human beings, they always praise their own efforts. You see that throughout all of human history. So very simply, if you want to see the divine religion, look for the only religion that doesn't have human effort in getting right with God. So Catholicism, you get right with God by doing faith plus works. Modern Judaism, you get right with God by doing Torah, obeying the law. Islam, well, one good deed counts for 10 bad deeds. Buddhism and Hinduism, well, if you do good things in this life, you come back in a better next life. All of those things are works. Those are all human effort. Christianity is the only religion that says humans can't do anything to get right with God. God does it. Every other man-made religion is a system of morality because there's a list of do's and don'ts. It's based not on anything other than a religious system. Christianity is the only religion based on a person, a very specific person. A person who is truly God and truly man. And that becomes important because being truly God, he can pay a fine for more than one person and a fine that counts for all eternity. Because when you and I break God's law, because God is infinitely holy, that consequence is forever. So you need someone who's eternal to pay it, or you have to pay it for eternity. And so you need an eternal being who's also a human being to pay it for people. Christianity is the only religion that has that. By the way, that's also why Christianity is the only religion that can have a God that's truly just and truly merciful, because those two things are mutually exclusive. See, in Islam, they say, oh, Allah most merciful. Well, if he's most merciful, then he can't be just, because justice says he has to pay the full weight of sin, and mercy says he lets a pass on sin. How do you get the two of those to be together? The only way you can get those two of those together is at the cross of Jesus Christ, where the full weight of sin was paid upon Jesus Christ at the cross, he being God. And because he paid the full punishment, justice, he can now offer mercy where we don't pay any of it because he paid it all. So the full weight of punishment was paid by Christ. No other religion has a God that can be both just and merciful. It's one or the other. And he was challenging, apologetic Jaws, because apologetic Jaws had said this: the Quran says the Bible has no contradictions because no one can corrupt the words of Allah. And yet he was saying that he's asking apologetic Jaws to prove that. That's actually what the Quran says. The Quran says you could trust the people of the book and you could trust the book. Now, the Quran later will say that the book's been corrupted, the Bible, but we have copies of the Bible that predate the Quran. Therefore, we know that the Quran that they had before that was written and after that was written is the same. And yet the Quran says you can trust it and not trust it. So which part of the Quran are we to trust? This one that says you could trust the book or not trust the book. And for 76FZ, I'll give the same challenge I gave to the other fella or woman, don't know. But if your writer of your Quran is God, then how come he doesn't know how to define the Trinity? Because the Quran defines the Trinity as the Father, the Mother, and the Son. No Christian calls Mary God. Not even the Catholics who give her divine attributes will say she's God. But the Quran does. So did Allah just not know what Christianity believes? I'm just asking a question here, like Candace Owens. All right. So Seth, so let's talk more about this, and specifically, let's move on to Joel Webbon and kind of some of the things he's been teaching.
Yeah. So yeah, Joel Webbon. He's kind of this is a guy I used to listen to a few years ago, and he really, honestly, appreciate it. Kind of like Tucker Carlson. They followed a similar path where I used to listen and be like, oh yeah, this guy is saying a lot of good things, and of course. Joel Webbon was associated with our friend John Harris, and I think that gave Joel a lot of credibility. And I know that John really liked him too. And John was a guy with good discernment. So.
And I had this last week is that I was on John's program. This is the only interaction I've had with Joel Webbon. Was that John had both Joel and I on the program to talk about coming out of charismatic background to reform background. I knew nothing about Joel before, haven't followed him at all. So I don't particularly have a dog in the race with this because I don't follow him at all. I've heard the things that people have shared and he said, and I'm like, yeah, I would disagree with that. But, when that, I think I told you guys off air last week, was when that statement came out from the church about him saying he was disqualified, and they came out about it, but there were so many errors in that. A lot of people asked me to talk about it because so many people were like, "Oh, this clearly disqualifies him." I'm like, no, I actually was defending Joel to folks with that because just based on that letter, there were some real clear issues with that. I thought with the church, I think it was more them covering themselves after the fact. In that letter to me, because it was like they're saying, oh, we always said he was disqualified, but you sent him out. Like, you don't send a guy out that you say is disqualified, So I saw a lot of problems with that letter, and I thought just from the little bit that I had, I was defending Joel Webbon on that, even though I don't follow him and know him. But that's the complete of my interaction with him. So a lot of what you said to me was hearing it from you and going, okay, well, this is problematic. And yeah, there needs to be a debate on this.
Yeah. I've never had I've never had any personal interaction with him. But again, I listened to him a lot, back in the day, again, during the height of COVID and the social justice push from the left, of course, the social justice really invaded evangelicalism. And so he was a pretty clear voice, during that time that I appreciate. And I even recommended him to some people, like, yeah, you should listen to this guy. He says good things. And honestly, if I were to go back and listen to some of his old stuff, I'd probably still love it, because he said a lot of true things back then. But again, kind of like Tucker Carlson, there was a turn that took place, and I didn't really notice it until probably the last year, maybe year and a half, where again he started to go down this anti-Jewish, anti-Israel path. Let me give you an example here. He on his X account, what he said is this: back when the United States and Israel were sending missiles to Iran to take out their nuclear facilities, this is what he said: Israel did not attack Iran because Iran was about to attack Israel. Israel attacked Iran because there was about to be peace. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you kind of get a flavor of his thinking. Again, it's this ideology, right? He sees everything through this lens of they're the bad guy. Iran's really not that bad. It's Israel. They're the ones who want war.
Is that why all the people are on the streets, like pulling off their burqas and protesting their government there? I know they so love the country and the mullahs, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm grateful to have Babylon Bee on our side because they've actually written a couple articles against Tucker Carlson, and one was after the Nick Fuentes interview. Babylon Bee said that Tucker Carlson interviewed Sasquatch and didn't ask him any hard questions and just gave him a softball interview. Yes, that was really good. And then they said Megyn Kelly defended him. That's been kind of the pattern. She's always defending Tucker. But then so Babylon Bee also did another one about Tucker recently with Iran. That Tucker doesn't understand why the Iranians are rebelling against their leadership. Because he's been praising them so much. So it's very interesting to see this. So anyway, so Webbon has followed, the same pattern here of, and of course, I had a conversation with John Harris, and I think that it's okay for me to say this because the Christ is King conference is public. Anybody can go see it, and it basically John and a number of guys there were like, this is really dark, when they went to that conference last spring. Andrew, were you aware of that conference that was held?
Yeah, I vaguely, I didn't really follow it. I heard more about it after the fact.
Yeah, there was kind of a breakup between, I guess there was a breakup between like Joe Webbon and James White and Doug Wilson and those guys where I think, was it Joel Boot was another one where, these are all post-millennials, but James White and Doug Wilson and Boot all realized, oh, wait, he's really going down this white supremacy path, this Jewish hatred path. And they predicted back then that he was only going to get some of the things he said concerned them, and they've only been proved right. As time has gone on, it's gotten worse and worse as it's gone on. Yeah. So yeah, I heard that white supremacists were actually attending his church, and right around the time he was holding the Christ is King conference. And then what happened was, as time went on, he hinted that he's interested in possibly having Nick Fuentes come speak at a future conference. And then he did actually more than that. He did a 10-part. He's doing a 10-part interview with Nick Fuentes. Okay, and again,
Yeah.
if people don't understand who Nick Fuentes is, you probably do or I think a lot of people do at this point, because Tucker Carlson, of course, interviewed Nick Fuentes, and
Well, I know
yeah.
Ben Shapiro speaks highly of him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, and of course, Charlie Kirk, when he was still alive,
He was not a fan.
Oh no, yeah, Charlie Kirk called Nick Fuentes vermin, and he would not even debate him because he didn't want to give him the time of day. So Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk both, even in the interview that Joel Webbon had with Nick Fuentes, he highlighted those two guys as his greatest opposers in the conservative movement. This 10-part interview that Joel Webbon is doing with Nick Fuentes is, if anyone had any doubt, it's so crystal clear at this point what Joel Webbon is doing. I mean, he's, again, basically agreeing with most of what Nick Fuentes says. Now, here's what's crazy. If you listen to the first interview he does with Nick Fuentes, he says at the beginning, he says, let's go back to 2015 or 2014, before anyone really took Donald Trump seriously. And, could you imagine being the guy who interviewed Donald Trump only to see his rise into power? So he compared Donald Trump before anyone knew he had a chance to Nick Fuentes, basically saying Joe Webbon is predicting that Nick Fuentes, he's either going to be the future president. I kid you not, he said this. He's either going to be the future president or the kingmaker, the one that all the hot candidates they're going to want his endorsement. Like what delusional world is he in to make such a comment? Does Nick Fuentes have any connections with anybody now?
Yeah, I never actually heard about him until recently. So, I mean, maybe he had a following out there. Now it is interesting because one of the few things I have heard about him is the fact that most of his following initially was fake bots. And so maybe he doesn't have so much of a following as we think.
Well, it might be that, and it might be people in their parents' basement who just sit around and watch Nick Fuentes videos all day, and he doesn't have nearly as big of an audience as
all of them are in the chat right now. The Muslim in the chat I think he's in his mommy's basement.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yep. So I don't know how big of a following he actually has, but it does. The group that again, all these guys are reaching, whether it's Nick Fuentes, whether it's Tucker Carlson, whether it is Joel Webbon, it's white young men. That's the group that they're pulling in. And so Andrew, I think at the Truth Fellowship, we really need to keep an eye on that and say, okay, don't go after these guys. This is not good. This is not going to lead you down a good path, because basically what they're saying is you guys have been set up to fail. There's crippling debt. There's really no future for you because everything is working against you. The powers that be are working against you. So really the only response is just get really angry. Just get angry at these people. Blame the Jews, right? Blame the boomers. Blame anybody else who might get in your way. But yeah, a lot of it is directed at it's the Jews' fault, right? So
maybe I should do the talk that I did at Jeffrey Rice's church which is now an article on TrueScript on the difference between true ministry and platform building.
Yes, yeah, that would be good. Okay, so someone I know actually told me that Joe Webbon actually admitted that the more he spread Jewish hatred, or the more he said against the Jews, the more views he got, and his channel absolutely exploded once he went down that path. I mean, he was
seeing it with all of them. Seeing it with Candace Owen, Tucker Carlson, all these people. They found something that brings in a new audience, and because it's really this simple. If your goal is platform, then you don't care for truth.
Mm-hmm.
You care for whatever gets you clicks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you care for truth, you're not going to have as big of a platform because you're going to basically alienate a whole lot of people that could be following you if you just say what they want to hear. Well, it's more important to say what God wants to hear than what you want to hear. And at least I can only speak for myself. I'm less interested in what you think I should be saying, and I care very much about what God thinks I should be saying. And if you are in the boat where you're more concerned about what you think others will like to hear versus what God wants to hear, get out of all public ministry, public anything, please. Oh, sorry.
Yep. That's right. And that's a huge problem in our day. Is there is this desire to do platform building, and I tell you what, Andrew,
negative, right?
I'm a local church pastor. I don't know where these guys get the time. I mean, I've had to do 2 funerals in the last 3 weeks. I got another couple of funerals coming up. I'm just thinking, I mean, just the pastoral care that needs to take place at a local church. I can get away for an hour or two talking to you.
Seth, are you saying people are dying to get out of your church?
Yeah. I hope not. No. But it's just the reality of ministry, right? I mean, you're going to face crises. You're going to face all kinds of challenges. I mean, our call as pastors is to love the people, to preach the word faithfully, to defend the truth, and there's nothing in the Bible that says anything about growing an audience, right? Growing, whether in your church or on the internet. Now, I think healthy churches tend to grow. They tend to be vibrant. You see that. But that being said, we should not judge the success of our ministry based off of how many clicks we get, how many comments we get, how much money comes from that. I think in a lot of ways it's a curse. And I think any pastor out there listening to this, if nobody knows your name, don't be sad about that. It's important that Christ knows your name, that Christ knows what's going on in your ministry, that Christ is pleased with your ministry, right? And because I have so many concerns about Joe Webbon. One of them is the platform, like you said, the platform building. Another one is the Jewish hatred. But even just the, it's just obvious self-promotion. And like that is the opposite of what pastoral ministry is supposed to be. I mean, we're supposed to be magnifying Christ. We're supposed to be, taking a bullet for people and lay down our life as Christ did. Instead, it's I chose this path in order to make a name for myself, right? I mean, that's what it's turned out to be for I think some guys, and it's sad for us to say that, but. It's I think it's pretty obvious what's taking place here, but like you said, Andrew, if he is a man of the truth, debate us, right, and then we'll find out, right?
Then at least the issues are out on the table, right? I mean, this is an important thing for us to be able to. If we're going to say we stand on the truth, then I had a lot of people who were against when I debated R.A. Fuentes. He was out in the Philippines. He challenged James White, myself, others, and he was like, "There's no reformed person that'll debate me. I'll debate you." I did the debate. He still hasn't gotten over it. He still talks about me. I mean, it was funny because I proved he's a Calvinist, and he wanted to. And the issue he wanted to debate is that Calvinism is useless and dangerous. And yet he doesn't know Calvinism. And so James was like, yeah, you're not worth my time, because James is looking for formal debates that are going to be a good exchange of ideas, that are going to be he hopes meaty in the content, because as he's getting older, the debates are what's going to last, and people are going to be viewing and see the specifics of the issues. And that's what is good out of a good debate. I've had plenty of debates with people that you're like, I mean, I did a debate once with a guy on human secularism. He wanted to debate that human secularism is superior to Christianity. I am convinced, and so was the moderator, that the guy was playing video games while I was giving my opening statement and my rebuttals. Like, we came to the cross-examination, and he did a rebuttal. And I'm like messaging the moderator going, do I do the cross-examination or just a rebuttal? He goes, do a rebuttal, and then I'll explain to him the rules again. And so he never asked me any questions in the debate. He went back to another rebuttal. I'm like, I think this guy wants a monologue. And the key of a debate is cross-examination. But you see, if a person doesn't have a strong argument, they want to avoid cross-examination. I mean, a great example of that was when Matt Slick and Matt Dillahunty, Matt Slick and I came up with what we called the Dillahunty Dodge. Because what Dillahunty does is he's a professing atheist that when he wants to avoid, he just avoids having to deal with issues. He always puts everyone else on the defensive, and he never has to defend his arguments. So when he finally, and he was dodging Matt Slick in a debate. So when he finally said, fine, we'll do it. The one thing I said, Matt, he has to be on the defensive. So make him take a positive affirmation in the debate. So he did. He took the affirmation that Christianity, that human secularism is superior to Christianity. Same debate topic that I had done with that other guy. And it was so funny. And folks, go check out that debate. Matt Slick, Matt Dillahunty, because you'll see Matt Dillahunty admits that defending an argument is hard. And Matt Slick gave him a way out. Matt Slick left him off the hook because the guy, as soon as cross-examination started, he wanted out of there because he couldn't defend his argument. And he's like, can we just have a discussion? Matt's like, all right, let's just have a discussion. Matt Slick was kind to Matt Dillahunty because Matt Dillahunty couldn't defend his arguments. That's the reason that I think that some people they talk tough, even as we have the guy in chat here, the two Muslims. You don't see them coming into the program. Why? Because they can't defend their argument. They could just sit here as this guy's doing, 76 FZ. He goes, oh, you're lying. I'm going to try to address his comments before we get done. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Seth, is that guys who they know they can't defend their own arguments. They only want a monologue. They want to only speak to their audience without anyone challenging them. And I'm just going to say this because I got this like 3 weeks ago. Someone told me that I am afraid to debate him. Okay, so just for the record, every week I start this show saying that anyone can come in. You go to apologeticslive.com, you can come in. You could be all prepared all you want for your debate. I don't even know you want to debate. You can come on in and have your debate. Do I seem like someone afraid of a debate? I don't think so. I'm not afraid of a debate. I'll debate anyone, anywhere, anytime. Let's have it. It's every Thursday night. You can debate me. You want to debate Islam for 76 FZ? You can come on in here. Let's see how you do. All I'm going to do is ask you questions. You know why a guy like that won't come in? Because you know you can't defend your debate. You know you can't defend your arguments. Why will Joe Webbon, in my personal opinion, Seth, I could be wrong. I don't think he's going to take your challenge. Why? I don't think he could defend the arguments he makes against Israel in a case where someone like you is going to challenge him. That's my guess. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So,
yeah. I don't. I guess my hope would be that he would see it, right? And I don't know if someone knows him or can send it to him. At least, that if we know that he saw it, then we can say, well, he just didn't want to debate us, right? So, but
look, we could tag him. I mean, there's people we know that know him. We'll let them know. But let's talk. You had an article that you wrote on TruthScript. that I want to encourage people to go check out. I had read that since last week when you sent it to me. So why don't we talk about that for a bit? We got about 15 minutes left before I want to try to address some of the comments from this Muslim dude in the chat. Because it's kind of interesting because he said I said something that I didn't say. So I want to at least have fun with that. But the article you had written on TrueScript, let folks know where they can find that, or at least what the title is, and a little bit about the content of that, because I thought it was a really good article.
Yeah. So if you go to truescript.com, you can find it there. It's a call to stand against the obsessive hatred of Jews. You can find that article there, and it's very similar to the chapter that I'm writing in the Truth Fellowship book that's gonna be coming out in the next few months. And yeah, it's just I appreciate TrueScript for publishing it, because a lot of the guys who were with us, linked arms with us during the social justice fight, are now kind of have gone down this path. And Jeff even mentioned like J.D. Hall, for example. He's one who's gone down this path, and then others, Joel Webbon, and I can name some others too. But
I can. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to get myself in trouble, Pastor Seth. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
I don't know Joel Webbon. I do know Jordan, and Jordan is absolutely a platform builder. I'm not surprised if he sees a platform he could jump on to get a name recognition for himself, he'll do it. Now, so if you're saying the same of Joel, I can see where they could marry up together.
Anybody who is linking arms with these guys, it's reasonable to conclude that they are platform builders. Unless they can show us otherwise, it's reasonable to conclude that. Which, and it's sad. We don't want to say that about these guys, but when you're presented with overwhelming evidence over the years, it's like, okay, I think I need to make that conclusion.
So let me ask you this, because you're more familiar with Joel than I am. Humble Clay, one of our regular listeners here, says, at Apologetics Live, just to clarify, Webbon is the dude that said black folk are less likely to be saved or some such nonsense. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I wonder if he's referencing the Roselawn debate that he did, because they discussed that topic. I cannot speak intelligently on it, because I'd have to go back and look at that, but yeah, I mean, there are, I will say this, statements such as that are being spoken pretty frequently by certain people, where, it's almost like Christianity is a white man's religion. And of course it takes things that are reasonable and true to just extremes. Like, for example, we have a Protestant background, right? A white Protestant, Anglo. That's the history of our nation, right? And we're very grateful for that. The foundation of Christianity that's in our nation.
The greatest theologians was an African, Augustine.
Yes.
I mean, much of our theology is based off of him. Much of the formulation of our theology, and many Calvin, Luther, others who go back to Augustine, he was black. He was African.
There you go. Yeah. So, and of course, the 39 of the 40 books of the Bible were written by Jewish men. So,
Apologetic Jaws says James White debated Corey Miller over the, quote, black people are less likely to be saved, unquote, statement. And I remember that debate. I didn't watch it yet.
Yeah. So Corey Muller is another big name in this. Really, I mean, it's racist. Let's call it what it is.
Hey, let's maybe Corey Miller, Joel Webbon versus you and Pastor Jeff.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I don't Corey Mahler might even be too extreme for Joel Webbon. That might actually hurt his platform. Yeah, but yeah, no, Corey Mahler. I mean, he has said things like, "Not one Jew will be in heaven." So sorry, Andrew. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think I shared with you guys maybe offline last week, but I had a pastor who contacted me after October 7th, probably about a year after. It took some time, but I had a pastor who contacted me and told me, not only am I not saved, I can never be saved because I'm from a Jewish background. And I was just like, yeah, that's just nuts.
He was a podcaster?
No, a pastor.
A pastor. Oh, a pastor. Even worse. Oh boy.
I hadn't spoken at his church for now. It's got to be like 12 years at least. Yep. But he sent an email. I hadn't heard from him in years. He sent an email and said that he just to inform me that he's not using any of our materials at Striving for Eternity. He can't endorse anything I do because I'm not saved, and I can't be saved because I'm Jewish. And I was like, at this point, there's actually nothing that I'm going to respond to with that guy. I'm just like, I think my response was, thanks for letting me know. That's about it. I was just like, okay, because it's like, you're too far gone at that point. And I hadn't spoken to the guy in years, but you feel the need to like get this off your chest. Okay. I hope you feel better about yourself.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So those comments are being spoken out there, and again, it's been mainstreamed by certain people. Even like a Joel Webbon is mainstreaming a Nick Fuentes. So Joel Webbon isn't going to go right out and say the things that Nick Fuentes says, but he platforms them. He's really affirming what he's saying by having him on his program. Tucker Carlson did the same thing with Nick Fuentes, right? So you're seeing these radical views being platformed.
His argument that he had with Megyn Kelly was he wants to understand their views. It was new to him, and he wants to just hear what they have to say. But you pointed out, the difference with his interview with Ted Cruz. There wasn't I just want to let you voice your opinion. I mean, Ted Cruz was in the debate club in high school. He was very good at debate. He really is. I mean, he's very good at debate. Tucker Carlson was going at him. It was a very contentious, and they both admitted it. But that wasn't the case with some of these others. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, you could tell that he despises Ted Cruz. It's really sad. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. And there's, Joe Webbon is consistently going after Israel and the Jews, and he's like, even on Christmas he posted something that this is a Christian holiday, not a Jewish holiday. It's like what a ridiculous statement that is.
You mean Passover? That's not Jewish.
The Christmas holiday. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. He's like, Christmas is a Christian holiday. So take that, Jews. Yeah. It's like so. Yeah. There's again he's going after views. I mean, he totally he realized there's a gold mine, and you wonder how many of them are bots, right? But there's a gold mine out there that he has found, and they call it the new Christian right. They call it the woke right. But we need to be very clear to draw a line and say this is not Christianity. This, and in the political movement, this is not political conservatism. This is ugly. And I don't know if you saw, Ben Shapiro actually gave a speech at the Turning Point event. Now, minus the language, he used some really bad language, but minus the language, I mean, what he said was right on the money. He said, that these guys like Carlson, and I would say this for Webbon too, Carlson in the political realm and then Webbon in the church realm, they've become launderers of bad ideas.
I want to give kudos to Turning Point because they did not say to Ben Shapiro, publicly at least, that what he said was out of line. They were like, hey, he's got the freedom of speech to say it. And he was one of the early people. I really do wonder if he was like, hey, can I be on before any of these others? Like, I want to be on early, because he threw the gauntlet down. And in what he did, that actually turned where, I mean, Tucker responded, like there was a lot of response to that. And he just threw it out there like, okay, let's get this issue on the table. And I think that if I don't know for sure, if he did ask to go up early, he wanted to give them a chance to respond to it, right? And if he did that, then I'd have more credit. He'd have more credibility with me in the sense that he said, okay, hey, let them have the last word, but I'm throwing the gauntlet down, right? Versus afterwards where they have no time to respond, right? Other than to their audience. He wanted them to respond to the audience that was there.
And they didn't, obviously they didn't really address. Basically, it was all Tucker Carlson said was Ben Shapiro doesn't want J.D. Vance to win in 2028. Which is a really interesting thing for Tucker Carlson to say, because it does make me concerned about a little bit about J.D. Vance, and I've talked with some friends of mine.
One in the chat said that Tucker Carlson's son works for J.D. Vance.
That's true. That's
okay.
true.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that, of course, you can call this, again, you can call it the new Christian right, or the new conservative movement. You can call it the woke right, but some call it the Groyper movement. If a political candidate cannot condemn the Groyper movement, we got a problem on our hands. And to this, because J.D. Vance was recently asked, is there an anti-Semitism problem in the Republican Party? And he said no, which is incredibly concerning to me, because it's like it is a problem. It's a huge problem within the conservative movement right now.
It hasn't been until I think the last year or so.
Yeah. It's skyrocketed. It's been building, but it really exploded in the last year or two. The connection with Vance to Tucker Carlson, that is concerning for me as I look ahead to the future of the political conservative movement. But I think this is going to be a major issue in the 2028 election.
Yeah.
So
you might be right. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I want to, if I can, address some of the comments here from this Muslim fellow who is just going off for a while now. It's just some comments that we've had. Apologetic Draws earlier when you were talking about Islam says America needs to take a page from the Borg. Meaning, we're referring to the fact that they need to assimilate into America, and that actually is what immigration is that they need to assimilate. And so here's some comments from this Muslim fellow. He says, the Injil, if you're not familiar, the Injil is what the Muslims will refer to as the New Testament, and the Torah, which I just want you to notice how he spells Torah, because that's not even close to how you would spell Torah. But I know my English is not so good, but dude, yours is worse than mine. Like if I can say that your English is bad, it's really bad, because mine is not that great. All right. So he says the Injil and the Torah got corrupted because Allah promised to protect them, or didn't promise to protect them. So that's actually not true, because in the Quran, it says that you can trust the book and the people of the book. But here's the thing, 76 SF. If you believe that God wrote in, what they would argue, God wrote through Moses and it got corrupted, through David and it got corrupted, through Jesus and it got corrupted, and you believe that the Prophet Muhammad didn't get corrupted, well, the first three, we don't have evidence that there were multiple copies that had to be destroyed. But on the fourth one, we do. Your third imam, okay, Uthman, he was the first one to have the Quran written, and he had all the people that supposedly knew it by verbatim, and you know this if you know your Muslim history, had them write it down because the people were dying in the war. They write down the Quran, and he gives an edict to burn the abhorrent texts. So the simple question, 76 SFZ, how do you know he burned the right one? If God couldn't keep his word, according to you, the first 3 times, why do you think he kept it the 4th time? When there was an edict, when it was known that the guys who memorized the Quran from Muhammad had differences in the way they memorized it. I'm just asking a logical question. If God couldn't keep it the first 3 times, why do you think he can keep it the 4th? Now, Seth, I don't know about you. If I got onto a plane and the pilot said, hey, 75% of the time we crash, but don't worry, we'll survive this one, I'm getting off that plane. Right? So he claims, he said, striving fraternity, you said earlier some high IQ guy was Christian, so I asked, how does him giving a high IQ and being a Christian prove Christianity true? Well, first off, that wasn't me. That was Pastor Jeff that mentioned the IQ and marrying of cousins. And neither of those were in an argument of proving Christianity true. We didn't say a high IQ proves Christianity true at any point during this show. You can go back and re-listen, but we never said that. Okay. Now we talked about Mary, and he made this claim. You Christians do dawah, which is to worship, to her and pray to her statue. No, that's Roman Catholics, and they're going to hell just like you. Apologetic Jaws tried to answer, and he said, no one here makes dawah or prays to Mary. We are Christians, not pagan Roman Catholics. Thank you, Apologetics Jaws, because you kind of nailed it there. Because that's the thing. And his response was, Hail, Mother of God. Well, and that was his response to Apologetics Jaws. Mother of God in the first century was not a reference to Mary. It was a reference to Jesus. And so if you want to refer to Mary, Mother of God, then you're condemning your own Quran, which denies the deity of Jesus Christ. Mother of God is not that there's anything special about Mary. It was a term in the first century to refer to the fact that Mary gave birth to God. It's a reference to Jesus. It isn't an issue of Mary. Okay, so you show a lack of understanding of both Mary and era of Christianity, early century, of who Mary is and who God is. You get that because your Quran, yeah, that's right. Your prophet Muhammad, who made up the Quran, it wasn't Allah, didn't know Christianity. Okay, all right. So 2 more comments that we have, getting more maybe back on topic. But Homo Clay said, what is the specific Webbon dilemma? I know it's something to do with chemo brain. Now, I don't know what he's referring to, Pastor Seth. So can you help me here? I don't know what, I know the dilemma you've been bringing up has got to do with the nation of Israel. I don't know what he's talking with chemo brain.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the chemo brain comment is, but it does seem that Webbon does have a dilemma, and that is, he's gone down this path, right? This Jewish hatred, this Groyper, this new Christian right path, and it's like he can't go back. So I think his dilemma is,
yeah. For folks that don't know, the term Groyper is it's a term that is a it's a follower of Nick Fuentes, is how the term is used. So it's I don't know how that came about, but it's a term of his followers.
Yep.
Kind of like, Matt Slick, he jokes that his followers are Carmites because the ministry is Carm. And he likes to have fun. So Carmite, termite sounds similar, but it's like when you're a follower of something. And so that's what the grifters, the grifters are totally different. I think that's Candace Owens, but that's what it is. So I'm sorry, continue.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the dilemma that Webbon has faced is, like if he had a much smaller crowd and he was actually doing what was right, he would have credibility. But instead, he has gone down this really strange, dark path that has drawn this large audience after him, and so he's chosen the large audience over credibility. With a much smaller audience. Of course, we do know that some faithful men have large audiences, right? But back when Webbon was doing good things, his audience, he had a sizable audience. It just did not explode the way it has, right? So it's like he's gone down this path where it's like, oh, I got to keep going, and you wish he would repent and say, no, I need to turn from these wicked ways. But if he is a wolf, though, he will not turn. He'll continue to go down this path.
Yeah. So one other comment that I had here, this is more just someone having fun at my expense. So, and I'm not afraid of that. So if I was worried about a platform, I would. But Apologetic Draw says, Andrew is spinning his dreidel on his desk. No, I'm not. Okay. So Humble Clay asks to folks, are you familiar with David Wood? And I want to put this up because if we've been talking a bit about Islam with the guy in chat, David Wood has a ministry that's really dedicated to dealing with the issue of Islam and really tackles them head on. David is someone I know personally. David and I have spoken at Jeff's conference. Jeff, who was on here earlier, Pastor Jeff, in the early, in his not his first it was his first conference, the South Jersey Apologetics Conference. It was David Wood and myself Friday night, and then the next year was David Wood, myself, and Matt Slick, and so. We have spoken at that conference together, gotten to know him. He's got a very interesting testimony, but he is really taking the Muslims head on, and they absolutely hate him because he uses their own text against them. And they really don't have an answer for the things that their own texts say when he just looks at it and says, okay, let's deal with what actually happened according to your text. And he just gives it to them and they don't have an answer. So Humble Clay is saying, he's in all caps, he says, no, reread. And then he said, my chemo brain. So, okay. So I guess he was just asking what the dilemma was or the issue was with Joel Webbon. Humble Clay says, it's a chemical romance. They're having lots of discussion in the chat, but just looking at the time we have left, is there anything else that you would have that you want to encourage folks or want to let folks know? I mean, we've talked a lot about this, both politically and religiously, this Jewish hatred that you see. Because you're following Webbon, I'm not. But I have seen, I mean, I think I've said this on past episodes. After October 7th, when Israel was attacked, I have a love for the nation of Israel because of my background. I don't deny that. But the thing is that I think I have seen a lot of hatred towards the nation of Israel and Jewish people ever since October 7th. I expect it from the left because they're woke ideology. I expect them to be pro-Palestinian because the Palestinians are oppressed and the Israel's the oppressor, and that's the whole thing with woke nonsense. I did not expect to see it from Christians. And I saw a lot of that. And it is, to me, very discouraging because, I mean, I had one person online that told me that Israel is not a state today. And I'm like, what do you call the land that's there between Jordan and the river? Like, what's that called? It's just mind-boggling to me that people, and I said this last episode, that I think some people are so out of balance with their covenant theology that they see Israel as being replaced by the church, or that the church is Israel, that they don't see that there can be a nation of Israel today. Well, I got news for you. There is a nation called Israel today. I know. Shocker. Go look on your map. It's there. Even Google has it. I mean, it's crazy. But I've not understood the Jewish hatred within Christians. And Seth, I know you have studied this. You feel strongly about it. And I may have been more out of balance if I wrote the chapter in the book on this subject. So maybe it's good you wrote it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting. I grew up in a home that loved Israel and always saw a future for Israel, and my parents believed that, and I as I've grown up and became a pastor, I'm convinced of it, not because of my family history, but because I see it in Scripture, right? And that's where my conviction comes from, why I'm so passionate about it. And I am a Gentile. I mean, I'm 50% Swedish, and I got a big mix of European in me, and so I don't have. I think I'm like 0.5% Jewish or something like that. But
if you go to the Mormons to get tested, I'm amazed that even people in China have a little bit of Jewish because they have to, because they got to be one of the 12 tribes. Yeah. It's kind of funny that if you do a DNA test with the Mormons and you do a DNA test with anyone else, the Mormons will always have you a little bit Jewish because you got to be. I mean, you can't be of the Aaronic priesthood otherwise, according to them.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So, I guess I'm passionate about it. Now, I do want to put a plug in for the May conference, because someone different is going to be talking about this than me, and that is Russell Fuller. So Russell Fuller, he was really well known during the social justice controversy, and he was really a whistleblower at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, and lost his job because of it. And Russell Fuller is just a wonderful man and courageous man, and just as he was strong against the social justice movement, he's very strong against this Jewish hatred. And he learned under a lot of Jewish people when he was getting his PhD. So he has a great love for the Jewish people and for the nation state of Israel. And he's an amillennialist too, by the way, which is very interesting. He's not a dispensationalist; he's an amillennialist, and yet he loves. He believes in the future for Israel, at some level, and that we need to bless them and be blessed. And he's going to speak on this at the conference, which is the first weekend of May, as Jeff said earlier, in Tampa, Florida. If you can find out about the conference at thetruthfellowship.org. It's going to be a great conference. I tell you what, there's not a lot of conferences I would go to at this day and age here in 2026. I might get in trouble for saying this. I think we're saying that a lot here today, aren't we? The Shepherds Conference, I'm very disappointed in their lineup. When you look at, they have Al Mohler coming there. They have Lincoln Duncan going there. They have Mark Dever going there. I mean, these are people who, at some level, pushed the woke movement forward, only a handful of years ago and never repented of it. And now they're invited back to the Shepherds Conference.
Yeah, I have no intention of going back. I'll say this. You look at that and they say, oh, They're here because John MacArthur wanted them. So after his death, we're going to do that. If he wanted them, why weren't they there when he was alive? I am just asking a logical question. And I know that, if you poke that idol, because that's what it is for some, they get all upset. I mean, look, we have lost viewers, listeners, because I'm going to be honest with things. And like you look at, like you just said, if they're there because John wanted them there, why didn't he want them there when he was alive? To me, it looks like they want him there. They want these people there because John's not there, and they want people to attend.
Yeah. They're big names still, and
yep.
Yeah, and that one really gets me upset because let's say even if John MacArthur on his deathbed says, "Oh yeah, you could have him speak," he's on his deathbed. I mean, people tend to weaken right before they die. So I mean, you have to look at the fact that this is Christianity 101 here. They never repented. Therefore, we can't trust them.
And the big deal they were making is, oh, look, you're going to have Phil Johnson doing the Q&A. Okay. Will Phil Johnson ask the hard questions that he asked before? I will be anxious to see that aspect, but and if folks don't know, I mean, 2019 was last time these guys were there. And if you watch the Q&A of that Shepherd's Conference, I was there. I also know the background. Phil told me personally that he had told these guys he was going to ask these questions on social justice. Okay. Al Mohler was not there. And if you watch that, you'll see the guys who knew what the questions were going to be, they didn't speak up. They just sat back like, I'm not going to, hey, Al wants to deal with it. Let Al take it. And if you go on my rap report, go look for, just search rapreport.org, do a search on Al Mohler. We did 2 episodes on that. Al Mohler said you can't have your cake and eat it too. Now, that was an episode Al Mohler did about, he was arguing that a Canadian Catholic politician who wouldn't stand up on homosexuality. And his argument was, you can't have your cake and eat it too. As a professing Catholic politician who's in Canada, he said, you cannot avoid the topic of homosexuality. And Al Mohler was challenged with the issue of wokeness. And he was challenged also, in the issue of homosexuality when it came to Beth Moore, at the time a Southern Baptist. And what you had was Al Mohler not wanting to take a stance. And I said, look, if you say that a Catholic, not Christian, Canadian, not American, politician, not a Christian, didn't need to take a stand or needed to take a stand, but a professing Christian, Southern Baptist, American preacher, Beth Moore, didn't need to take a stand on homosexuality because she's Southern Baptist. Sorry, Al Mohler's a hypocrite. Like, if you're going to say that this guy who's a Roman Catholic, he's not even saved, he's a politician, so he's not arguing for Christianity, and he must take a stand. And Al Mohler said, you can't have your cake and eat it too. But Beth Moore can avoid having to address the homosexuality issue. When she was Southern Baptist, she was preaching on stages for Christianity, and she gets a pass? I'm sorry, Al Mohler, hypocrite.
Yeah.
And that's what got me to know more about John Harris. So I don't know if you know, Seth, about the background. So I did an outreach in New York with a group called Change Your Campus, college campus ministry. And we used to do an outreach in New York City. And John Harris actually attended that when I was teaching. I feel bad, but I don't remember it. And he told me that we had a conversation back then, and I didn't remember it. I feel so bad. But when I did those 2 episodes on Al Mohler, people kept asking me if I had seen John Harris's Conversations That Matter. And so I went and listened to his episodes he did on Al Mohler, and I was like, I didn't know, I hadn't followed him, knew nothing really about that. And I went, man, if you listen to the episodes I did and the episodes he did, you would definitely think that he and I were talking together. And there was nothing at that point. And so I reached out to him, and that's actually, we met at Shepherd's Conference, and that's how we had built a friendship, because we started from that, but yeah.
Yeah. So, if you're going to go to a conference, I think the Truth Fellowship Conference, the first weekend of May, would be well worth your time to go there, and it'll be much smaller than the Shepherd's Conference. And of course, Shepherd's Conference will have a lot of good stuff too. We understand that. We want to be fair.
Based on Seth, the advantage of a smaller conference, especially if you go year after year, is you get to know the same people. Where when you go to the bigger conferences, it's like, hey, Seth, how you doing? And then I don't see you for the rest of the conference. You don't get to build the good bonding relationships at the big conferences, but you do at the smaller ones.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, it's this. We're addressing the big issues of the day, and like I said, you can look at our 13 statements on thetruthfellowship.org. And where we speak out against social justice, and we speak out against this Jewish hatred ideology that's out there. So it's always a fight over the authority of Scripture, and so that's what we're doing. That's what we're about, and we just want biblical shepherds to be put forth, and we want people to understand what a biblical shepherd is, right? But anyway, thank you, Andrew, for having me this evening. It was good to be with you again. 2 weeks in a row. Yeah,
I love being with you. Let me just deal with a couple of quick comments that we have here. Apologetic Jaws says Dr. Jeanson at Answers in Genesis done amazing research on genetic tracing every people group on Earth back to Noah's daughter-in-laws. Dr. Jeanson was actually here on Apologetics Live, and like I say, you can we're here. Anyone can debate us. When Dr. Jeanson came in, we had Dan, who is a professor at Rutgers University, who had been following Dr. Jeanson and came in for a debate. And Dr. Jeanson wasn't ready for it. He handled it marvelously. And Dr. Dan he's avoided some topics here. We've challenged him to come back on. I know, he has I forget what his YouTube channel is, something Creation Myths, I think it is. And he says creation is not a really big deal to him. Really? Then why is your YouTube channel named after creation? Just saying. But he hasn't come back. I wanted to debate him on some, more political things because it'd be fun. Andrew from Down Under, brother, I love you. I'm glad that you came back. I haven't seen you for a while commenting. He is from Down Under. He says, where's the hatred for Hamas? They seem to get a pass on the issue. Seth, have you noticed that as well as I? That they really don't seem to, there doesn't seem to be, Hamas is recognized as a terrorist organization, but everyone seems to give them a pass on these issues. You notice that too?
Yeah, everything's backwards. I mean, you see that, Isaiah 5:20, right? Light is darkness, darkness is light, sweet is bitter, bitter is sweet. So October 7th happens. You would expect in a world that makes sense that the whole world would show compassion to the people of Israel and say, man, what happened to you is so horrible. Instead, it was rioting on campuses, protesting against Israel and free Palestine. And none of it makes any sense whatsoever, but that's the world we live in. So, yeah.
Yeah, I saw I think I told you and Pastor Jeff about this, but the woman she was a Queer for Palestine, part of the Queers for Palestine movement, and she went over to Palestine to support them, and they beat her to a pulp because she wasn't wearing a burqa. They tore up her sign, and just you see there's a video of her being dragged through the street. And she's like, but I support you. And they're like beating her. And she's a New Yorker. Like, hello, I could have told you that was going to happen. So mentioning conferences, let me give you guys, as I know we're a bit long, March 12th and to the 15th is the Built to Conquer conference. Go to calebgordon.org to get the details. This conference, absolutely, it's in Bartlett, Oklahoma. If you do not buy tickets, this conference may not happen. We talked about smaller conferences. They are far better than the big conferences. And so this is one that the topic is going to be about basically how do we make a difference in this culture that we're in. And so we have to build something to conquer in this culture. And so this is a conference that I've been told that one way or another, if the conference doesn't happen, I'm still going to be speaking in Bartlett. But we'd rather have these other guys come down and be preaching as well. So go to calebgordon.org, get your tickets for the Build to Conquer conference in Bartlett, Oklahoma. If you're in Philadelphia area, we're planning to do at my home church, Oxford Valley Chapel. And if you want to come there, we're going to be doing an evangelism training with Hearts for the Lost. That's going to be April 17th and 18th. So that will be an evangelism training that will be open to all people, free of charge. Next, we talked about this already, but the Truth Conference that will be May 1st to the 1st to the 3rd. 3rd will be the Sunday. That'll be in Tampa, Florida. So those of you who I finally want to get out of the cold. I've had enough of the freezing weather. Get me out of this snow. Well, May will be a great time to be in Tampa, Florida. You'll get your shorts out. You can go into the pool and enjoy that. So that will be something I strongly want to encourage you. Go to the Truth Conference. Don't go to truthfellowship.org. There is a website, Truth Fellowship. It's not that one. thetruthfellowship.org to join the conference. Lastly, I'm just going to let you guys know, a friend of mine, Phil Sessa of Street Fishers Ministry, he has, I'm trying to remember the podcast. I'm going to be beaten up over this. I got to go look. He's one of the podcasts. I feel so bad, Seth. He's one of the podcasts on Christian Podcast Community. And so I'm like rushing out to the Christian Podcast Community.org to look up. That's really bad, isn't it? That I can't remember the name of, and he's a good friend of mine. He's going to beat me up. But anyway, he is one that is, what we're looking to do is, we're looking to do an outreach in New York. Now, he and I we met in Union Square, New York, doing evangelism there, doing street evangelism, open air evangelism. And so we met there, and we're going to be going, and he's trying to get a whole bunch of people together, churches and people who want to do evangelism in Union Square, New York. Union Square is an awesome place to evangelize. I'm just saying, because you get everything there. I mean, you're going to get a little taste of everything. There's so many people that are out there that you're going to get, the people who are the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the people that are making up their own religion. I mean, everything is out there. It really is a fun place. You don't have to do very much to get into a conversation in Union Square, because everybody is looking to there's a lot of people that are looking to get into those discussions there. And so it is something that you can really thoroughly enjoy a conversation. And so we're going to be doing that on Saturday, June 27th. And if you want to get more information, if you want to find out about that, just reach out to us. You can contact us at info@sfe.bible, info@sfe.bible. And that's the place you'll find out about that. It is something that if you want to do evangelism, if you want to do some outreach and you're nervous about it, it's a good place to go, because that's going to be a place where there's a lot of us out there and we'll be able to come alongside you. His podcast is Stop and Think About It with Phil Sessa. So had to go look it up. I admit it. So check those different events out. And so, Pastor Seth, let folks know, if they're in your area, what church should they go to come and visit you? Anything else that you want to promote?
Yeah. So but my church is Eureka Baptist, and we're an hour northeast of the Twin Cities. Minneapolis, St. Paul, and we're right across the river, the border here in Wisconsin, and we have a wonderful church here. We'd love to. If you live somewhere in this area and you're looking for a church, we'd love to have you and come for a visit. And you can always call us if you have any questions too. But we have a website, eurekabaptchurch.com, eurekabaptchurch.com. That's our website. We also have, my sermons go on our YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Eureka Baptist YouTube channel, and also Rumble. We're on there as well. If you want to listen to sermons otherwise, you can find, I do the Tearing Down the High Places podcast with Jeff and a couple other guys from his church. And then I have I have a lot of articles that I've written on TruthScript. I know that, Andrew, you've written on TruthScript now, but I have a lot of articles that I've written on there if you want to check that out too. So, but anyway, there's the whole point of all these resources is I want to help people understand Scripture better. I want people to understand how to apply the Bible to the times in which we live. And if they could be of any help to you, that'd be amazing. So, yeah.
Well, Pastor Seth, I am thankful you came in. Thankful that you have a heart for Israel and a heart more so for biblical truth. And so I'm honored to be able to join you with the Truth Fellowship. I hope that's something that more people will go to thetruthfellowship.org to check out what we're doing there. We're trying to create a fellowship of like-minded people that are willing to stand up for truth, even when it's not popular. And one of the issues that we said, hey, we're going to address is the issue of Israel. You got to stand on what the Bible says, on biblical principles. And it's one of the things that some of the guys said, no, we want to, in light of our culture, we're going to stand on this issue. That's what the Truth Fellowship is about. It is about getting folks together to be able to fellowship together. We're looking to also do ordinations together, as many of the guys have been forced out of denominations because of the fact that they stood on truth over popularity, truth over culture, truth over platform. And therefore, they lost their ability to do ordinations, things like that, do have resources. There's a lot we plan to do with the Truth Fellowship. So please go to thetruthfellowship.org and check out what we're looking to do there. Yes, we're getting started. We've seen a lot of organizations that touted that they wanted to do many things to come alongside the church. Okay, I'm going to name names. G3. Yeah, what'd they do? They said they wanted to come alongside the church. But what do we see? Their founder was a platform builder. All he wanted to do was make a name for himself. The Truth Fellowship is not that way. We actually want to come alongside the churches and serve churches. So we want to do the actual thing that G3 said they want to do, but they didn't do. We're actually going to do. So if you're disheartened over the fall of G3 and Josh Bice, come to thetruthfellowship.org and see what we're looking to do. Come to the conferences we're doing. Yes, we're just getting started, but we won't be big because we care more about truth than platform. Would that be fair to say, Pastor Seth?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we'll be as big as the Lord wants us to be. We want to bless as many people as we can, but it's up to Him. And if we can influence dozens of men to be strong biblical pastors, I mean, it'll have been worth it for sure. So, but yeah, it's up to the Lord what He wants to do. But we do sense that He's called us together. We do sense that He's going to do something wonderful, and I think He already has. And I think He's going to continue to do it. So we look forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've worked with Josh Bice. I've worked with Pastor Seth and Pastor Jeff. There's a difference. When I worked with Josh, it was about the platform. These guys that I'm working with the Truth Fellowship, it's about the truth. And it is refreshing. And so I strongly encourage you guys to go to thetruthfellowship.org. Check out the conference we're doing down there. First week of May, great time to be in Tampa, Florida. And so I will be there. Pastor Seth will be there. Pastor Jeff will be there. I want to strongly encourage you guys to come check it out. Get to meet us, get to talk to us. It'll be a small enough gathering where we can fellowship together, go grab a meal together, and just enjoy some time together. I don't know if I'll be invited to the Airbnb that Jeff has with his church, but yeah, my bride and I will be there. Now, Pastor Seth, you don't get the special nature of that, but when I went to G3 and I announced that my bride would be there, there were people like, really? Oh, my bride was amazed that people came up. They wanted to get a photo with her. And she's like, why? They're like, we didn't know you really exist. I mean, the way Andrew speaks about you, you couldn't really exist. Well, if you want to get to meet my bride, thetruthfellowship.org, go check it out. Come to Tampa, Florida, early May, and you'll get to meet her. I'm just saying, she will be there with me. Probably at the table. If we have a table set up, she'll be there. But I was going to say, and I meant to say this early on, but I will say this, speaking of my bride. So we have reached the top, in the top 100 of all religious podcasts in Hong Kong. It must be all my wife's family. That's all I could say. I mean, I told my wife earlier, thank you for telling all your family to check out Apologetics Live because they're all listening. For those who don't know, my bride is from Hong Kong. And so, which I always joke, she's British, not Chinese. Okay. She's not part of the Communist Party. So they went communist after she left. But yeah. thetruthfellowship.org. Please check it out. Pastor Seth, I thank you for coming on. I thank you for your heart for Israel. I thank you more so for your heart for the truth.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. And no, thank you for the same things. And so grateful for the bond we have in Christ and looking forward to the days ahead.
So next week, I do not have anyone, I don't have a title or a topic yet, but we will, unless, of course, the Muslims who are in the chat want to come in, we'd be happy to talk with you. You want to tell us how wrong we are about the Bible and how it's been corrupted? I'd be happy to talk textual criticism with you. We'll see how much you understand textual criticism. We'll see how much you understand the textual criticism of the Quran. In the Quran in Arabic, is there only one version? Maybe that'd be a fun topic to do. So until next week, remember to strive to make today an eternal day for the glory of God, and we will see you next